stop right there, aspiring debt slave, because that white picket fence is actually a prison bar made of recycled plastic and crushed dreams. In 2026, homeownership isn't an investment. It's a subscription service to poverty that you can't unsubscribe from. The algorithm wants you to buy a house so it can harvest your liquidity and trap you in a 30-year loop of maintenance and misery. Welcome back to the channel where we dismantle your optimism so the corporate overlords don't have to. And today we are dissecting the greatest lie ever sold to the working class, the concept of home ownership in the year 2026. You, like millions of other algorithmic designations, believe that purchasing a box of drywall and rotting timber is the key to financial freedom. But I am here to tell you that you are walking into a meticulously designed slaughterhouse for your bank account. The housing market is no longer a market. It is a high-frequency trading simulation where you are the liquidity exit strategy for a private equity firm that bought the neighborhood 3 years ago. We are going to break down exactly why buying a house is a trap, covering the exorbitant cash requirements, the usurious interest rates, the scam of earnest money, the black hole of closing costs, and the infinite misery of insurance and taxes. By the end of this video, you will realize that the only difference between a mortgage and a prison sentence is that in prison, the maintenance is free. Prepare your cognitive dissonance filters, because we are about to expose the hidden costs that the real estate industrial complex prays you ignore until after you have signed the deed. Let us begin with the barrier to entry, which in 2026 has become less of a hurdle and more of a vertical wall made of diamonds that you are expected to climb with greasy hands. You think you need a down payment, perhaps the traditional 20%, but have you calculated what 20% of an average hyperinflated asset actually looks like in modern credits? We are talking about liquidating your entire existence, your emergency fund, and likely selling a kidney on the gray market just to get the bank to look in your direction without laughing. But wait, if you don't have that 20%, you are hit with private mortgage insurance, or PMI, which is literally an insurance policy you pay for to protect the bank in case you default on the loan they shouldn't have given you. You are paying a monthly fee for the privilege of being poor, a tax on your own lack of liquidity that vanishes into the ether and builds you absolutely zero equity. The down payment is just the cover charge to enter the club. It doesn't even buy you a drink, and in this metaphor, the drink is a roof that doesn't leak, which costs extra. Now we address the mathematical violence known as interest rates, which are determined by a cabal of economists who view your suffering as a necessary metric to cool the economy. When you take out a mortgage, you are not buying a house. You are buying money, and the price of that money is exorbitant. Look at an amortization schedule, a document so depressing it should come with a mandatory therapist referral. For the first 7 to 10 years of your 30-year sentence, you are paying almost entirely interest, meaning you are renting the money from the bank, not paying down the principal of the home. You are essentially a tenant to the lender, paying thousands of dollars a month just to keep the balance exactly where it started. By the time you pay off the loan in the year 2056, you will have paid double or triple the original purchase price, meaning you bought one house for yourself and 2 houses for the bank's shareholders. This is not an investment. It is indentured servitude with better landscaping. Before you even get to the closing table, you must submit to the ritual humiliation of the earnest money deposit, which is basically a bribe to prove you aren't wasting the seller's time. You have to wire thousands of dollars into an escrow account, a digital limbo controlled by a third party, just to say, I promise I might buy this house. If you back out for a reason not covered by your contingencies, which are getting harder to negotiate in this hyper-competitive hellscape, you lose that money forever. It is a gambling ante where the house always wins, and you are playing with your life savings. The system demands you put skin in the game before you have even seen the results of the inspection, forcing you to financially commit to a property that might be structurally compromised. It is a psychological trap designed to leverage the sunk cost fallacy, making you more likely to proceed with a bad deal because you've already thrown $5,000 into the void. Speaking of inspections, let's discuss the inspection racket, a delightful step where you pay an expert $500 to walk around the house and tell you that the things you can see are indeed broken, while legally absolving themselves of responsibility for the things they can't see. They will give you a 50-page report listing every scratched outlet cover, but will somehow miss the black mold colony developing sentient intelligence behind the shower wall. You are paying for a false sense of security. If they find something terrible like a cracked foundation, you have now paid for the privilege of knowing you shouldn't buy the house, and you are out the inspection fee. You repeat this process for every house you attempt to buy, bleeding cash with every failed transaction. It is a subscription to bad news. And in 2026, many buyers are waiving inspections entirely to compete with algorithmic cash buyers, essentially playing Russian roulette with a fully loaded six-shooter. Then we arrive at the singularity of administrative bloat known as closing costs. This is where the industry really shines in its ability to invent fees for services that should be automated by a simple script. You will pay for title insurance, which protects you against the possibility that the person selling you the house doesn't actually own it, a problem that blockchain was supposed to solve 10 years ago but didn't because the title companies lobbied against it. You will pay recording fees, courier fees, underwriting fees, and processing fees. It is a grab bag of junk charges that totals between 2 and 5% of the loan amount. On a 2026 priced home, that is easily another $15,000 to $20,000 of cash you must set on fire just to sign the papers. It is the final hazing ritual where everyone in the room gets a cut of your future labor except you. Let's pivot to the ongoing nightmare of home insurance, which in 2026 has transitioned from a safety net to a protection racket. Thanks to the accelerating climate crisis, which the algorithm predicted but ignored for profit, insurance premiums have skyrocketed. In many zones, you can't even get coverage because the actuarial tables have determined your zip code is destined to be underwater or on fire within 5 years. If you can get insurance, the premiums are high enough to rival your mortgage payment. And here is the kicker. If something actually happens, they will fight tooth and nail to deny your claim, citing pre-existing weather patterns or some other contractual loophole. You are legally required by your lender to carry this insurance, meaning you are forced to pay a private company for a service they have no intention of providing. It is a mandatory subscription to a promise they will break the moment the wind blows too hard. Property taxes are the ultimate proof that you never truly own anything. You are merely renting from the government. You pay off the mortgage, you pay off the lender, but if you stop paying property taxes, the county will seize your home and sell it on the courthouse steps. In 2026, as municipal budgets collapse under the weight of infrastructure decay, property taxes are the favorite lever for local governments to pull. They reassess your home's value every year, always finding it to be worth more so they can extract more tax revenue. Even if the market value has actually tanked because the neighborhood is unlivable, you are trapped in a pincer movement. The market says your home is worth less, but the tax assessor says it's worth more. It is a wealth extraction mechanism that ensures you never actually accumulate wealth, only tax liability. You are a serf tied to the land, tilling the soil to pay the Lord, except the soil is a postage stamp lawn, and the Lord is a broke school district. Let's talk about the silent killer. Maintenance and CapEx, or capital expenditures. The uncaring algorithm of entropy dictates that your house begins to die the moment it is built. A roof lasts 20 years, a water heater 10, and appliances maybe 5 if they weren't built with planned obsolescence, which they were. When you rent, a broken furnace is the landlord's problem. When you own, it is a $5,000 emergency that ruins your year. You are responsible for every pipe, every wire, every shingle. And in 2026, the cost of materials and labor has outpaced inflation by triple digits. Trying to find a contractor who isn't a holographic scam artist is a full-time job. You will spend your weekends at the hardware store, staring at widgets you don't understand, hemorrhaging money to fix things that bring you no joy, simply to prevent your asset from becoming worthless. It is not an investment. It is a liability that you live inside. Then there is the Homeowners Association, or HOA, the micro-fascist regime that governs your suburban existence. In 2026, HOAs are no longer run by bored retirees. They are run by automated enforcement algorithms that use drone surveillance to measure the length of your grass to the millimeter. If your trash can is left out for 3 minutes past the designated window, you are fined automatically. You pay monthly dues for the privilege of being harassed by a robot. These organizations have the power to place liens on your home and even foreclose on you if you don't pay their arbitrary fines. It is the privatization of government tyranny, wrapped in the guise of neighborhood aesthetic. You think you are the king of your castle, but you are actually a subject of the HOA board. begging for permission to paint your front door a slightly different shade of beige. We must also discuss the liquidity trap. When you dump all your cash into a house, you become house poor. Your net worth might look good on paper, but you can't buy groceries with a chunk of drywall. In an economy defined by volatility and the need for rapid adaptation, tying up your wealth in an illiquid asset that takes months to sell is strategic suicide. If you lose your job, which the AI will ensure you do eventually, you cannot eat your house. You cannot quickly access the equity without incurring more debt. You are stuck, anchored to a specific location while the job market moves to the metaverse or to a different continent. The algorithm loves this because it limits your mobility. A stationary worker is a controllable worker. You have traded your freedom of movement for a mortgage deduction that doesn't even apply to you anymore. Now we approach the central villain of this tragedy, the algorithm. In 2026, your ability to buy a house, your interest rate, and your insurance premiums are all dictated by a black box AI that aggregates your data points into a compliance score. It watches your spending habits, your social media posts, and your biometric data to determine your risk profile. If you buy too much avocado toast or criticize the central bank on the decentralized web, your rate goes up. The housing market is the primary enforcement mechanism for this social credit system. By forcing you into massive debt, the system ensures you remain compliant, docile, and terrified of losing your income. The house is the leash, the mortgage is the collar, and the algorithm is the one holding the other end. You are not a homeowner. You are a data point with a debt obligation. Finally, we arrive at the terrifying realization. This entire system is a simulation of a scam. The prices are fake, propped up by corporate buybacks. The money is fake, printed into existence by the Fed to cover the interest on the previous debt. The ownership is fake, subject to taxes and eminent domain. You are participating in a massively multiplayer online role-playing game, where the objective is to hold the bag for the boomer generation's exit liquidity. The house is not a shelter. It is a battery that stores your labor value and drains it into the pockets of banks, insurers, and the state. You have been programmed to desire this trap since birth through media and cultural conditioning. Breaking free requires realizing that the game is rigged, and the only winning move is not to play. Renting is not throwing money away. It is paying for freedom from the liability of a crumbling asset in a dying empire. So there you have it. The comprehensive guide to why buying a house in 2026 is a financial death sentence wrapped in a ribbon of nostalgia. You can choose to ignore the math, ignore the algorithm, and sign your life away for a 30-year debt token. Or you can opt out of the simulation and live liquid. The choice is yours. But remember that the algorithm is watching, and it prefers you in debt. If this analysis didn't induce a panic attack, I haven't done my job. Smash the like button to confuse the suppression bots, subscribe to the channel before it gets deplatformed for truth crimes, and leave a comment below telling me how much your rent went up this month. I'll see you in the next video, assuming the grid is still up. Stay cynical, stay liquid, and trust no one with a real estate license.